Hi, my name is Colleen Davis. I'm from the graduate school. I'm going to be doing this presentation and have the other two presenters introduce themselves now as well.
Hi, my name is Julie Deaton, and I work with Colleen in the graduate school. When you submit your dissertation or thesis, after all the work you've done and defended, I'm the one that will be reviewing and working with you on the final part, and then I will pass it on to Colleen.
Hi, I'm Regina Testa. I oversee the IMC, the Innovate Make Create Center at the library, and my role is to help you. So I've written some guidelines, and I'm the person you're going to call when you can't seem to adjust the formatting in the ways that's required.
So our agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about the graduate school and the university libraries. We're going to go over some formatting guidelines, some basic information. Regina is going to walk through some tutorials for you for our especially difficult areas. And then we're going to field any questions you have. Again, feel free to use the chat for the questions. Julie will monitor it along with Emily, who's also from the university libraries, any questions you have there. And if we can't answer it in the chat, we'll answer it at the end. So the graduate school, what is the graduate school? For your purposes, we are the area that admitted you to your programs. We're also the area that will award all graduate degrees. As Julie mentioned, we review the dissertations and theses. All submissions are electronic. We manage the submission process, which includes the forms, the communications, and the final approval that have come through. We also provide many of these virtual sessions like this one right now that you're attending. We have virtual hours where it's more of an open conversation where you can talk to us about specific questions you have about either your research or any position you're at within your dissertation or thesis itself. And we have a robust dissertation and thesis website, which is fairly new. We continually add to it. So I do recommend that you continue to check that website. We put all of our sessions on there, as well as any new resources that we find.
Okay, so university libraries. I myself am not a librarian, but many of our librarians do work with the graduate school, as well as me, to provide resources. So we have librarians that cover specific subject libraries that you connect to. They're the librarians that you might get some help with research. You might also need to talk to them about MLA or APA style. We house electronic copies of prior dissertations if you'd like to take a look at what others have done. And we host the Scholars Archive. So you're going to hear a little bit about this in some of the virtual sessions. And if you want more information, you can contact me or Emily.
So we're going to dive right into it. Formatting guidelines. This session is a brief overview, but there is a very lengthy document, if you have not seen it already, on our dissertation and thesis website. We will also be circulating this presentation and slides to the group, along with the link to our website if you haven't been on there already. Our main website is albany.edu/graduate, and there's a link for current resources for current students, and the webpage right there is linked on there for dissertation and thesis resources. We also have a formatting checklist because we understand that formatting guide, which is probably about 20 pages long, is a lot of reading, and sometimes you want some quick highlights of things to keep in mind while writing your dissertation and thesis. So we do have a formatting checklist available for you to keep up near your computer, where you can just basically check off all the little things. The key points. All of our submissions are electronic through ProQuest. ProQuest is the third-party publisher we use. When you submit through them, you sign a non-exclusive license, which means that you still retain the rights to your dissertation and you can distribute it as you see fit. Submissions are done after successful defense and once your committee has approved it. So you are not able to upload electronically until it is the faculty approved dissertation. If you do submit prior to that approval point, we will have to withdraw your submission and you have to submit at the point that your faculty approve it. administrative forms that we do require as part of your clearance for the degree, those will not be uploaded as part of your dissertation. They're manually sent over to Julie or myself in the graduate school. Sometimes the departments themselves send them over to us as well. But again, they're not included in the electronic copy that you submit through ProQuest. Style. Your style is determined based on your discipline. So if your discipline follows APA, MLA, we default to that style. The formatting guidelines that we have are really minor formatting, such as margins, title page, double space, and where your page numbers are. So anything larger than that, such as, do you call it a citation page or is it a reference page? Should you have a list of tables in the beginning? That is really dependent on the style that you use within your discipline. Just look, like I mentioned, you must include a specific title page. You have to include an abstract as part of your prefatory pages, the main text of your document, and a reference and/or citation page. Those are the main points that have to be included. Pagination. So the page size itself has to be 8.5 by 11. We've received dissertations that were considered A4, which is 8.25 times 11.69, and we have to send it back to the student. It has to be 8.5 by 11, just based on the requirements for ProQuest. Page numbers themselves, all pages are counted in the page number, but your title page will not have a visible page number on it. Your prefatory pages, which is your title page, your abstract, your acknowledgements, if you have some, a dedication page, table of contents, those are considered prefatory pages. Those are using Roman numerals. And then once your main text starts, that's when you use Arabic numerals, starting with number 1. But again, all of your pages are included in the page count, including the title page, but the title page does not have a visible page on it. Spacing, double spaced for your abstract and main text. So what this means is your title page does not have to be double spaced. Your acknowledgement page doesn't have to be double spaced. Really, it's the abstract and the main document that have to be double spaced. 1-inch margins on all sides. This includes tables, images, graphs, everything. Your tables and images will have to be reduced to make sure that they fit within that 1-inch margin. Nothing can be in the margins. We also require no running headers and footers and no blank pages at all. This may be an issue when you convert your document from Word to PDF. Regina is going to go over some tips and tricks about this, but we can't have blank pages in the document overall.
Okay, so some tips on preparing your publication. First, I highly recommend that you look at the 3 handouts on formatting that I've created. You can get to them from the graduate school website. One of them is specifically on page numbering, not that difficult to follow, and I highly recommend you number your pages before you start dealing with issues with landscape pages, okay? There's also a Word document, a template available on the graduate school website. So it gives you some tips. It has those 1-inch margins, a formatted title page, and the appropriate page number structure. Some of the things that when I've helped students, I've found that would be helpful for you to know is you should use the commands in Word. Don't do manual kinds of things. So for example, when you want to insert a page break, start text on a new page, do not hit enter on your keyboard until that text moves. This is something that's going to create a blank page, very likely. So make sure you use the commands that are available to you. When we look at a document, you're going to see that another option to look at the footer versus looking at the content. You want to double click in those areas to be able to access them. Very, very, very important. Most people have at least one landscape page to address a very large table, very wide table. So to create them, we're going to do that by going to the top line menu, page setup, and look at the options available for specific pages. And you're going to number all pages before rotating them. Okay, next slide. More content tips. When you are working in your document and you've set up your margins and you have an image or a table, it's really a good idea to display a ruler and view your document with grid lines. Grid lines give you the ability to see that your table is within the margins and that maybe it's centered like you would want it to be. You can also control the placement of the graphics as well as the text around the graphics. I'm just experienced at doing this, and I would recommend that you start with changing word wrapping to text and top and bottom, for example, or move with text so that you can formulate exactly how that page should look. There's some options for formatting charts and tables. We'll go over that. You can get them to fit the entire width of the page, or you can shrink it down, and you can have something called repeat headers. So when your table is flowing into other pages, you're able to have a header at the top of every page, so the reader knows what information goes with what. Link to previous, that command to link, to toggle, to link and unlink page formatting, that is going to be your friend. Link to previous. Okay, next page, next slide. All right. At the end, you're done. You're ready to create that PDF file. There's a few steps you need to take. There's also a handout that explains how to do that. And I'd like to tell you that the handouts, I have created them using a Windows computer and a Mac. So there is notes when the commands vary depending on the platform you're using. But you need to embed fonts in your Word document prior to creating the PDF file. So embedding fonts, what that does is allows your document to be read on another computer. And if that computer does not have that font, your fonts will not be changed. So your format and your document remains as you've created it. The next tip that I give you, recommended that you use Acrobat Pro. Don't use Preview on a Mac. Don't do File, Save As, or Print to Microsoft PDF. This is based on helping people that are really having difficulty getting their format in the way that they need it. You know, things improve with new versions of software. So if you don't have Adobe Acrobat, you could try using Preview on a Mac or Print and see what happens. But if you're having a problem, you're going to have to find a computer with Acrobat Pro so that you can follow the handout and the tips in the handout to get to the format you need. Do not upload a Word document and ask ProQuest to create the PDF. Both Julie and Colleen have seen issues with that. It's always best to create the PDF version and then upload the PDF version to ProQuest. Okay, after that PDF file is created, you're going to follow some steps to again ensure that your fonts are embedded. I highly recommend you also skim your document. Some of them are, 100 pages, but you can very quickly use a thumbnail to confirm you don't have any blank pages. Okay, and if there are issues, you just return to your Word document, make changes, and recreate that PDF file. Okay, so Julie's going to give me the screen, and I'm going to show you on a Windows computer a practice dissertation and just point out some of the things you should be doing and looking for. I'm going to assume, unless you tell me differently, this is working for a display. Okay. So this is a title page. All right. In the template, it gives you some options for choosing your date. You want to make sure that the name you're using is the name that's on record with the university. If you've changed your name, you have to go with what's on record, okay? And you can just look at the way that this is spaced out as an example. Your title page is counted as page 1, but there is no page 1 on this page. I'm going to just click in the footer area a couple times. It'll show you its first page footer, section 1, no page number. Okay, your abstract, okay, must be double spaced. It's required in the document. And there's some notes about these prefatory pages. Prefatory pages are pages following, okay, that you may or may not include in your document. Notice these prefatory pages are using Roman numerals. Okay, and the note here is if you're going to have a list of figures and a list of tables, they begin on separate pages. You can't combine these sections together. They sit by themselves. Page 3, and then we have our main text, okay? And you'll see at the bottom of this, we now have started at number 1 and we have an Arabic number. So when you follow the page number handout, it shows you exactly how to set up these different sections for page numbers. I'm just going to scroll down and I'm going to come to a page with a graphic. Okay, here's a graphic, picture, image. Okay, I'm going to go up to my top line menu. I'm going to select view and I'm going to select grid lines. Okay, a word about grid lines. They don't always display when they're supposed to display. It's a known bug in Microsoft Word. This would take too much time, but if you have a problem, email me and I'll give you the fix for it. It took me like a half hour to find it yesterday. But grid lines, this is what it's showing. It's showing the white area, which is your margin, and you're seeing that this chart doesn't fill to margin. You can do that if you'd like, all right? You simply click on the graphic at the top. You're going to get the picture tools ribbon. And you're going to come down to format, okay? And you can change the format of this graphic. One of the things you can do is you can grab a corner and resize it if you like, all right? Never grab anything but a corner. You want to make sure the height width stays within proportion. Crosshairs, you can now replace it in the middle if you like. Okay. Another thing about images, it will be at the top of the screen, or you can right click on it once it's selected. I'm going to right click just because it's a little easier to view with Zoom. And you have some options for this image. I'm going to come down to wrap text and you're going to see some options. In this particular graphic, I selected top and bottom, meaning wherever my text is, if I move my graphic up or down, the text is going to flow top and bottom of the graphic. Tight, you can see a change right there. It starts moving around. Okay, so it depends on, do you need text near your graphic, or is top and bottom going to work for you? It takes a little time to play with. You also have the option to make this fill just by continually resizing it. Okay, now I made this smaller. You see here, I'm gonna, the end of this sentence, all right? Just take a look here, and I'm just gonna turn off my grid because the grid lines distract. What you wanna do here is, let's say you wanted to take this, the next 3 pages are landscape, and you want that to be the top of your page. You never wanna hit enter on your keyboard until it's on the top of your page. That will create blank pages or give you formatting issues. So right here, if you want to start another page, you go to insert, page break. Okay. All right. So here we go, landscape pages. I'm going to skip this page and come back to it. And I'm going to show you a landscape page. Landscape basically means is your paper, that's 8.5 by 11, is now 11 by 8.5. It's wider, it's on its side. And in this case, it's to accommodate a very wide table. How do you do that? Okay, I'm going to show you how to take some of your pages and change them to landscape. You're going to come to the top of your menu. All right, you're going to go to Layout, Page Setup, and there's a little arrow. So in Microsoft Office, when you see these little arrows, it means there's more editing options. It just hasn't displayed it on the ribbon. So you're going to go to Page Setup, and you're going to see that under Margins, 1 inch all around, and you're going to change to Landscape. But be careful. Pay attention to what you're applying it to. Did you select a page or multiple pages and you say this section? Did you want to do it from this point to the end? Some students prefer to put their tables all at the end, but you want to think about what you're applying it to. And if you make a mistake, you come back to this and you change the pages back to portrait for the ones that you need to change to portrait. I'll try to talk a little slower because this is the meat of your page numbers. I want you to see here where 5 is. Now, when you deal with headers and footers, and then you go back to the content of your document, you want to double click in that area. So if I want to address my footer, I'm going to double click, and you'll notice that your content, the body of your document, turns gray. Footer section 4. Your footer sections may have different numbers, but what I want you to pay attention to is the same as previous and what that means. Same as previous is saying my footer formatting is the same as the previous page, and the previous page, it is on the bottom. What you need to do for these pages, the landscape pages, is you need to change this. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the footer that's at the bottom of this page, but because it's landscape, it needs to be on the left. So if you can picture a landscape page in portrait mode, which is what ProQuest may do if it prints this, okay, is it's going to take your landscape page and turn it counterclockwise 90 degrees. When it does that, your page number needs to be on the bottom. So we're going to do that. Okay, Word users on Mac, you're going to have to manually insert the page number on every page. Remember, Microsoft and Windows, they get along pretty well, so they give you a little bit of a break, and they'll do this for any section that has a landscape page that's together. Okay, you'll see what I mean in a minute. I also see that students many times have landscape pages in various places in their document, but this is a practice, so I have one table that's 3 pages. So I'm going to come back to the table and just show you something about the table first. This is an Excel spreadsheet that I use. It lists workstations by number for Macs, and it has software listed. But when I copy and pasted this into Word, it created 3 pages. It's a 3-page table. And what you need to do when this happens is you need to provide headers. Okay, so you're going to click on your table tools, you're going to click on layout, and you're going to see that there's some changes that you can make here. If you look at the top here under layout, way over on the right, you're going to see that repeat header rows is grayed out. That's because I've applied it. So when I go to page 3, I'm going to know what I'm talking about. You have another option here to auto fit. So if you wanted your table to fit the entire width of this page, you can change it. I'm going to undo that for now. So here's what I'm talking about headers. If I'm looking at this chart and I see that Pro Tools is available on 2 workstations, if I don't put headers in, how am I going to know what workstation unless I scroll up to the first page? Okay, not too easy for the for the reader. And you didn't have to put the header in the Excel spreadsheet if that's how you introduced a table. All right, here we go. The first thing we're going to do to create page numbers in the appropriate place is we're going to double click in the footer area and see where it says same as previous. We're going to unselect that so that the format is not the same as the previous page, since the previous page is portrait mode, right? Right. Come to the top menu, and because you're in the footer section, you should see the ribbon and you should see link to previous is selected. So toggle means we're going to unselect it and it disappears. Now that will continue all the way. Oops, I apologize, I forgot. You also need to do this in the header area. Now remember, you can't have headers, but you need to do it in the header area anyways, just to be logical. If you don't link the footer, you shouldn't be linking a header. I know it sounds, why do you have to do that? But you do. And so this is going to continue. Now, this section of landscape has to be different than the portrait mode. So what does the portrait mode say? The portrait mode says same as previous. We do not want it to have the same footer as the landscape page. So we're going to come down here and we're going to unlink that one. And we're going to come to the top where the header is and we're going to unlink that. Okay, now we're going to manually add in our page numbers. So let's go to the first page. All right. Now you want to stay in that footer area. Okay. The reason is that's how you're going to insert a footer. Okay. So we're in the footer area. We're going to delete the number 6, gone. Let's come up to the top. Let's go to insert, page number. And this is all in the document. And you're going to come down to page margins and you're going to insert a page number on the left. Large left is what you got. And there you go. We're going to highlight the number and we have to make it match the font of the other page numbers. We'll come to the home tab. We're going to choose 12. That's because that's the font I used, as well as Times New Roman. It's always a good idea to take the text box, the box area, and shrink it as much as you can. Just helps with placement a little bit around the number. Almost there, 2 more steps. Okay, this time what we have to do is we have to rotate the number, okay, and we have to place it in the middle, in the center. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to go to more layout options. I'm going to position this to the center relative to the left margin. I'm going to align it vertically to the center relative to the margin and say okay. But now I need to turn it 90 degrees. Let's see, I don't have the same ribbon. My window is shrunk for your pleasure, so I am trying to look for that on the ribbon. I don't see it. So let's see. Where, maybe you can help me, where is, I'm just gonna manually turn it, but I advise that you do the command. Okay, well, why is it not working here? Okay, this is supposed to turn, and let's see if I can find it up here. You know, this is kind of good. I'm trying to change this after I clicked out and I can't access it. I think I'm in the footer area, but I have to come down here to get in the footer area, and now it's available to me. Okay, so I'm going to come to the top to format, under drawing tools, and I will see text direction, rotate all text 90 degrees. Okay, so I'm the teacher and I'm making mistakes, but that's good because what you'll realize is you can run into some problems pretty easily. All right, so let's take a look. Landscape on the left, on the left, on the left, and now we are on the bottom of the portrait page. Yay, all done. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and allow Colleen to share her screen.
There we go. Okay, so do you need permissions? This is another area that's something for you to think about. Previous publications, have you included any of your own materials that were previously published? If so, you have to look at the contract from the publisher you used. You may have to obtain permission of them to reuse your own materials. There is an area in ProQuest where you can upload permissions. Images. Did you also include images that you did not author? If that's the case, then permission is required for those images. If you've adapted those images, you can then cite the image indicating that it has been adapted from and then place the citation, or does it fall under fair use? We've got some other virtual sessions where we discuss more about copyright and fair use. There's also some lengthy information on our website that describes fair use. So I suggest you go onto our website to review that information. Or did you obtain the image through an open source? And if that's the case, you would just cite the open source that you obtained it from. Again, the University Libraries offers resources discussing each of these things. Media files. You can also upload media files within your online submission. There is an area called supplemental area. This is where if you had a huge access database that you want the reader to be able to use, but there's no feasible way of you including that in your main text document, you can upload it in the supplemental area. The supplemental area does not have to follow our formatting requirements, which means you don't have to worry about 1-inch margins. Other things, if you had videos that you wanted to upload, MP3s, any kind of music, you just have to make sure it doesn't violate any kind of copyright. Students who participate in our 3-minute thesis competition, we also film those, so you can consider uploading copies of that into ProQuest if you'd like. Social media. If you are citing any kind of social media post, you'll want to look at the social media account. Is it a public account or is it a private account? If it's a private account, what we suggest you do is redact the handle and redact the username. That way it's protected. If it's a public account, you want to read the terms of service for each one of the social media platforms that you're using to ensure that they're able to be freely used. Cost. How much is this going to cost you? At minimum, the cost to publish through ProQuest is $26. This pays for the microfilmed copy that's sent over to the university archives. From there, the cost can increase depending on which options you choose. So with the minimum cost, you get traditional publishing. That means it is within ProQuest, which is behind a paywall, and you have to have a subscription to ProQuest in order to access it. As the University at Albany, we have a subscription to ProQuest, which is why we have on within the university libraries, you're able to search for previous copies of dissertations and theses, which I suggest you do if you're looking for an example, even within your discipline of what another dissertation looks like. Feel free to go onto the university libraries website and review previous dissertations. You can even do word searches there or for specific authors if you have another student that you specifically would like to look as an example. So traditional publishing falls behind that paywall within ProQuest. If you would like your submission to be open access, which means easily obtainable through Google, other web platforms, you would want open access publishing. ProQuest does this at an additional cost of $95 on top of the $26 that you normally pay for. We suggest you look, if you are interested in open access, we suggest you look into Scholars Archive, which is managed by our university libraries. This is open access. It's our open access repository and it's free. So on our webpage, we have additional information about Scholars Archive. But if you are looking for open access, we suggest you look into Scholars Archive with us. Copyright application. This is $75 on top of the other $26 fee or $95 fee if you decide to go open access through ProQuest. Copyright application, you can also do this on your own with the US Department where copyrights are filed. You can do this on your own for a much less cost. Do you have to copyright it all? Technically, no. You as the author hold copyright. Should you have to go to litigation, you will want to consider submitting a copyright application, but you can also do this after the fact. This isn't something you have to decide right now. And again, Scholars Archive, look into it with the university libraries. Other considerations, embargoes. So what is an embargo? That means we hold off on having a full text publication through ProQuest for a specified period of time. What we have available is 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Why would you want to do this? If you were looking to have portions of your dissertation published with a third-party publisher, you may want to consider an embargo. The other publisher may want it not to be openly published through ProQuest. They may want to be the first ones to publish it. So with an embargo, you would just need your dissertation or thesis chair to contact myself or Julie, indicating they are endorsing an embargo request and providing the time period of 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years. The forms. So towards the end, you'll need to coordinate with your department on those administrative forms that I spoke about earlier in the presentation. There's for dissertation, there are 4 items that you need. Recommendation of conferral form, which is signed by the department chair. The dissertation approval form, which is signed by your committee members and the department chair. The survey of earned doctorates, which is an online submission that you do, and the doctoral checklist, which is also an online submission for us. That doctoral checklist really goes over all of the things we need you to do in order to be formally awarded your doctoral degree. For the master's thesis, it's a little different. It's much easier. You only need to give us the master's thesis approval form, which is signed by your committee members and the department chair. You don't have those other forms. You do have, however, have your own checklist item, which goes over all of the items needed in order to award your degree. For your defense, we are in the times of COVID right now, so virtual defenses are fine. You can use any kind of conferencing application system. We use Zoom here at the university. There's WebEx, Google Hangouts, whatever you and your department are comfortable with. Coordinate with your department contact, which would either be your assistant to the chair or the departmental secretary. They can assist you in helping in setting up these virtual defenses. We also accept electronic signatures on those administrative forms that I was just discussing. We understand it may not be feasible for us to get physical signatures from the department. We will accept electronic signatures. If they don't have secure electronic signatures, we'll also accept an email from either their UAlbany email address, or if they are not a UAlbany faculty member, whatever institution they are a part of, we would accept an email from them. So if you have somebody from Department of Health who's sitting on your committee as a reader, we would take an email from their Department of Health email account. Another thing to keep in mind is the semester deadlines and the timeline that you need for yourself. So for this spring, the deadline is May 1st. You then want to start backing out in your planning for when you want to do your defense. Consider your committee member schedules, when they can all get together virtually. Have you given them enough time to review your dissertation? This will back you up from that submission deadline. So while you can submit all the way up through May 1st, and there is some wiggle room for exceptions for extensions in certain circumstances, you don't want to get too close, because if your defense is scheduled for April 30th and the deadline to submit is May 1st, what if your committee themselves give you extensive edits you have to make? Now you are really trying to beat the clock in submitting your dissertation by the deadline. So do keep those things in mind when you are creating your timeline. ORCID ID. This is similar to like a social security number for your research, your publications. You can enter this information in ProQuest. So if you are considering publishing further and possibly having it under a different name, this will tie all of your publishing together for one ID number. And name changes, like Regina indicated, your dissertation submission in ProQuest and on the document itself has to match your official University at Albany name. So I suggest you log into my UAlbany, review your name and your address in there for accuracy. Should you need a name change, you will need to do this with the registrar's office prior to us formally approving your dissertation and awarding your degree, since everything has to match. Your diploma will also come in the name that's officially on our record. So again, if you have name changes, you'll want to get ahead of it and submit it to the registrar's office as soon as you can. Give me the news. When am I going to get my degree? So things you want to consider. Your submission deadline. Are you going to make the May 1st deadline? If you need a small extension, we can offer it. The extensions will change depending on whether or not we have a commencement. Announcements have gone out that the university is going to be doing some type of in-person commencement. So if you are considering participating, the window for an extension for you is smaller because it takes a lot of prep work for us to make sure that the events office has your name if you are participating in person. So the extension can only be about a week. Whereas if you were not planning on participating in commencement, we can go to the Friday before the end of the semester, which is May 14th. Extensions can be granted, but we need endorsement from your dissertation or thesis chair. They can contact either Julie or myself with that extension request. Also, your submission of your faculty approved dissertation by the deadline is what cements you as a spring 2021 candidate. We're going to go back and forth with formatting edits. We know this is going to happen. It's very rare that a dissertation or thesis comes in perfect. It has happened, but it's very rare because there's always something little. I mean, by the end, you've read this thing a million times and you're ready to submit. So when Julie goes through it, if she finds something, you'll get an email from ProQuest outlining the edits that we need you to make. But that initial submission by the deadline is what cements you as being a spring candidate. Anything after that, and it may extend beyond the end of the term, don't worry, we're not going to change your degree award term till the next term. You'll still be a spring candidate. Also, something to consider is, do you have any pending jobs, positions, postdocs? You're going to want to make sure that you finish your edits and get everything necessary to us before you need proof of your degree for that job. Again, when you're considering your timeline, consider any kind of future job offers that you have. And then finally, of course, when are you going to receive your diploma? Diplomas are released as long as you don't have any holds on your account, 2 to 3 weeks after the semester ends. So for students who we're talking about future terms, if you're going to submit during the summer, we review dissertations in chronological order as they're received. So if you submit in June for summer, we're not going to wait until August to look at you and award the degree, even though the award date is effective in August. We award you as we receive them. So Julie will be sending you a letter that basically confirms the award of your degree. Should you need an explanation as to why the official award date on the letter doesn't match what your transcript says, we write these letters all the time, and we can definitely provide a letter just indicating that you've been awarded early for the term. Things to consider for this spring: the closer you submit to that deadline date, the longer it takes for us to review, just based on volume. So if you are looking for a quick award because you do have a job pending, I would suggest submitting as soon as possible so we can start the evaluation process. Again, it still has to be your faculty approved dissertation, but the sooner you can get it to us, the sooner that Julie can review it. We've already awarded degrees for doctoral students for this spring, just based on when they submitted to us. And I think that covers it. Yep, that's it. So there's our contact information. Again, the slides are going to be sent out to you in a PDF. Our goal is to put this recording also on the website. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, Julie, or Regina when it comes to the formatting issues that she discussed.